this over. Got it. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so we have the practice test now that we have completed all of the modules and covered all the major topics. Now what we'll do for this hour is go through some of the questions from the practice exam. As always, feel free to work together to answer the questions. No rush. There are plenty of questions to go through. I highly suggest taking this practice test a number of times before you take the certification exam. These questions I have found to be the closest to the real thing, although I will always suggest that you not memorize the questions, but definitely remember how you have to think to answer these questions. Because it's not about this is not a history exam where you have to remember a bunch of facts. You do need to remember acronyms. You should know, like the back of your hand, the most common ports. There are some basic fundamental knowledge that you should already know. But from there, it's going to be a lot of situational questions, a lot of where you have to think on your feet. That does not require you to memorize questions and answers. Make this nice and big. Okay, here is your first question. What do you think is the answer?
I would say geofencing, maybe.
Okay, there's a vote for geofencing. There's actually 2 votes for geofencing. Anyone else want to take a shot? Okay. Is geofencing an account policy? Liz says no. This geofencing is not an account policy. The answer is actually the first, geolocation. Geolocation is an account policy. So while it initially does make sense to just geofence the person But the question is not that. The question is account policy. Silly things like that can get the best of you. Always make sure what they're looking for. Here's a second question.
White box.
To vote for white box. Going once. Going twice. Yes, it is white box. It is white box because the firm has given all the documentation. That is white box. Ooh, here's another one. Pete votes for B.
I think I'm in agreement.
One or two. The answer is number 2. You need the proper admin privileges in order to get anything from physical memory when the machine is on. Oops, this one. Number 4. Let me know if you can't read that picture. Oh, that looks better. Pete votes for number 3. Oh, sorry, Liz does. Or Liz and Pete. Another person also voting for number 3. And yes, that is correct. The deauthentication is kind of the giveaway that we're dealing with an evil twin. And another one. Pete and Liz, you are correct. A rat is starting to download more things. That's fine. Here we go. On to another one. Yes, indeed. They are preparing a disaster recovery plan. That is what we need to use for a complete loss. This one is not as hard if you remember. If you remember what I said about all these little things, that you don't have to have an in-depth knowledge of them. You just need to be able to quickly identify a acronym to something, to a quick couple words. The answer is C, PCI DSS. PCI DSS is the law that deals with this. Anytime you see credit card, you need to automatically think PCI DSS. And that's all you need to know for this test, is to know PCI DSS is tied to credit card. So anytime you see credit card in the question and you see compliance, PCI DSS, done. I don't believe we covered 223301. We covered 2701. This one is more of a throw off. I see a vote for A and a vote for B. Anyone want to break the tie? I have a second vote for number 2. It's actually number 1. We are in a meeting. The manager is presenting a scenario. These are very much things that fit a tabletop exercise. Now, a simulation would require more of more staff together of hey, we're gonna walk through it all, like actually walk through it. Kind of like the difference between saying you're gonna get under the table for an earthquake and actually getting under the table and actually walking out of the building to the evacuation place. Those are simulation exercises. Here, we're just sitting in the room, we're talking to each other at the tabletop. Right, we're thinking physical security for this one. Looks like we got some disagreements. Sensors, alarms, fencing, lighting. Yeah, we're picking 2. So I got alarm, fencing, sensor, and lighting. Well, if you picked alarm and fencing, you did not get it right. If you picked fencing and sensors, you got it right. Because fencing provides that first physical blockade. And sensors could be like lights turning on. Not exactly lighting. Could also trigger cameras, could also be any. Man traps don't work that well because they are they're already part of the building. You have to walk in the front door into a man trap, whereas fencing and sensors don't provide that for that entry into the building or outside of the building, outside the facility. Man traps work great if we are open during business hours. Then we can lock somebody in who's trying to like walk out with something. But when it comes to just physical security countermeasures to stop intruders, because that's what the question is asking. Best physical security countermeasures to stop intruders. They're not even in our building, they are outside. Then from the outside, we can use fencing and sensors to stop intruders. One big problem that a lot of folks have is adding more to the question. We never talked about them getting into the building or into the facility. You added more to that scenario. The simple scenario was, how do you stop intruders? If an intruder already walked in the door, that it's already game over. Oops, yeah, it was fencing and sensors. Next question. We have a vote for 4 and a vote for 3. Two votes for 4, 1 vote for 3. Well, segmenting the network into trusted and untrusted zones would not prevent a user who has local admin rights to do something silly, like allowing a rat to be installed. So it's definitely not that. Creating an acceptable use policy, well, it sounds great and would outline what should and shouldn't be done on a computer, doesn't always pan out because people don't always follow that. So it's not that either. Hey, on YouTube, someone wrote, just kick the admin off, but that's not an option here. So it's not 3 and it's not 4. Remember, don't add more to the question. So kicking the admin off is something not here, is not part of the scenario. So don't add that to the question. You'll go off the wrong road. Is the remote management tool set a popular tool like part of SysTools? Yes, it is. Yes, it is a popular tool, but you're adding more to the question. That doesn't belong here. The answer is enforcing application whitelisting. And Pete, you are right that it would be difficult to implement to say all of these programs are the only ones who can run, and any new ones have to go through a process. Yet for this question about a tool running, number 2 is the correct. It is the best way to prevent this from reoccurring. So your second comment of difficult to implement is adding more to the question. Just stick to what the question is asking, and 2 would be the answer, right then and there. And I know that it takes time, and that's why we're doing this, because it takes time to get into that mindset of, okay, I just need to answer what's on this question and not add more to it, because that's how they get you with these situationals. Ooh, another one. Who has data controllers and data processors? And I have a guess for number 2. Who has an outline for the roles and responsibilities of data controllers and data processors? I got 2 votes for number 2. I'm hard guessing. Well, your hard guessing is correct. GDPR has been all about European data and who can access it, who can do what with it, and outlining all that shenanigans. So yes, absolutely yes. It's GDPR. I would say summon your knowledge from the Web Security Academy. Who, by the way, is letting everybody take their certification test for $9 instead of 100. So if web security is your jam, now is the time to get certified for only $9. I have a vote for number 1 and a vote for number 2. And a vote for number 4. The answer is number 1. It is cross-site request forgery. Trying to take a session ID and send it to somebody else, or you're gonna get a different session ID. Haha. Moving on to another question. Pen testing is not on this list. I got to vote for 2 4s. Kick the app devs and get new ones. What is the best way that this team can ensure the application is ready to be released when every single time a developer releases an application, the security team has to find bugs? It is indeed number 4. How about before it goes into production, we run it through QA and then release it? That way we don't have to fix patches after the fact, because that's what's happening here. Is this developer keeps making stuff and then releases it to the world, and then security team has to find stuff and release patches, similar to like this one company with that has a lot of those things that you can see outside in your house. It keeps making some hits and then some junk. Yeah. They're in Washington. QA is quality assurance.
What do they make?
I'm sorry?
What does that company make in Washington?
Oh, they make these things that you can see outside through. At least that's the name that they took for their product. We have a reduced team. I have a vote for number 4. Okay, that's cute. I don't like acronyms. Yeah, well. 1 or 4. What? Nobody wants to vote for AAA. Yes, the answer is indeed MSSP. Here's another choose 2. Well, it's only choose 2. And which are the requirements? Yeah, they're all crucial, but there's 2 that are required by PCI DSS for compliance. Compliance does not mean crucial, by the way. There's a great little video that came out not that long ago of a guy trying to open a door, and there's a lock on the door, but then they realized just by moving the little notch thingy, they can just open the door. They met compliance of putting a lock on the door, but that doesn't mean it's secure. And right before this thing gives way, the answer is installing and maintaining a web proxy to protect cardholder data and encrypting transmission of cardholder data across private networks. So 1 and 6 were the 2. And let the 1 minute. Okay. Let's go back and hit practice. You guys want to do a second round? We got what, about 15 minutes. We could do a few more. Now I must remind you of who the target is. The target is not the security analyst. I have a vote for C. Get myself comfortable. A vote for number 1. Two votes for number 3. You are correct. Industry information sharing and collaboration groups is what would help this security analyst with attacks that could potentially target the executives. We have a vote for A. A second vote for A. A third vote for A. A CISO is concerned about the organization's ability to continue operations in the event of a prolonged DDoS. It is not number 1. That does not help you continue business operation in the event of a DDoS. Those are the key words. How do you continue operations in a prolonged DDoS? And now it's like, oh, that's what they're asking. Yes, it is implement a hot site failover location. Yeah, again, you got to pick out those keywords from that madness because it's very easy to think, oh, a DDoS attack. Well, like Christian put in the messaging that, hey, Cloudflare does the challenge response, therefore it should be. But see, you added more to the question by thinking Cloudflare. You went outside of what this thing was asking. Catch the keywords to see what they're truly asking. It is this one. Right, we got to choose two situation. This is a choose two. I have a vote for 4 plus 6. And a vote for 5 and 6. I vote for 1 and 2. Well, you are all partially right. The question is asking for the optimal environmental temperature. So how do we, looking at these items, how do we determine the temperature to find the optimal? That's not going to be humidity, which you were all correct in not picking. It is indeed one of the, that's half the answer. The other one, in order to have an optimal environmental temperature, because we're dealing with a data center, so they all automatically produce heat. So you need a cold dial where the cold air comes through. Okay, here's the next one. I have a vote for D. I have a vote for A. I also have another vote for A. The answer is actually D. The organization who found IOCs, indicators of compromise, would most likely be obligated by contracts to not tell the world any PII. That would be pretty bad to release PII into the world. Yes, personally identifiable information is PII. PHI is personal health information. There's a vote for number 3. And you would be correct that the answer is the loss of proprietary information. We're going to have a tour showing up. So all the whiteboards where we typically have our proprietary information as we doodle and try to figure things out, along with all the desks, they all should be cleared. 4 could be, but they're looking for the most likely to protect. Credential exposure, putting passwords on sticky notes, is a different policy. That's the clean desk policy. But here we're not talking about just desks. We're also talking about whiteboards. We have a choose two. Right, if they hadn't said whiteboards, you could be leaning towards the credentials. So again, don't add more to the question. Look at what they're providing you and stay within that realm. Three plus 4, B and D, 2 and 4. So funny enough, this question is not security related, is it? The network engineer has been asked to investigate why several barcode scanners that are all wireless and their computers in a warehouse have intermittent connectivity. The scanners and computers are all on forklift trucks that move around the warehouse. So there is no mention of security. So it can't be scan for rogue access point. It also can't be security protocols. We're not talking about security. Even though this is security plus, we have no mention of anything security related. Again, don't add more to the question. And that would be an easy way to add more into it. And they do that. So it's not 1 and 2. A captive portal, that is to log into a network. That's not the problem here. The problem is intermittent connectivity. So it can't be that. And it also can't be FTK Imager. FTK Imager is great for forensics. This is not forensics. I would start to lean towards that one if that answer said deploy Wireshark. Then I would start thinking, maybe that's a possibility because we're talking networks. But it's FTK. So that is not that's not it either. Leaving the last 2. Yes, we want to create a heat map to see how far and how wide our access points are going, along with the site survey. The site survey would be going around that warehouse, finding all the strong and weak points, and making that map that would show where we probably need to add more access points. It had nothing to do with security. But this is just a sample example of the things that you will see on Security Plus. And again, don't try to memorize these questions. That's not going to help you. What will help you is understanding the mindset, understanding how to put yourself into that question and not add any more information to correctly solve the question before you. I am more than glad to do this again next Tuesday if you show up, and we'll just keep doing it until the end of the semester. Are there any questions before we end the stream? Okay. See you.